put this in properly and people can see it. Okay, sweet.
Uh-oh, we're live.
And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Break it up. Break up the team. They're back, baby. It's all going to happen. No, I'm kidding. Welcome to this week's Toronto Till I Die podcast. They've won 2 in a row edition. So everybody's now super excited. You're with me, your host, Mike Newell. As always, joined by Jeffrey P. Nesker. And just like they pulled me from the reserve team, we have gone to the reserves and pulled up my co-host at the Tunnel Club and the House on Lakeshore podcast, Sean Levy. Boys, how are we doing today? The 2 in a row win vibes, 2 very good, kind of comfortable wins in a row. It's a new feeling. It's a new day for us in 2022. How are you guys doing?
Let's let Sean go first so I can make sure I can hear him.
Well, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yay!
Sorry for the technical difficulties, but
no worries, buddy.
Yeah, you know what? I guess for me, I'm still on a bit of a positive vibe. It was a great weekend. It was a great week and a half of soccer for Toronto FC fans. So, I'm definitely in a good spirit when it comes to the club.
Damn right. Like you guys said on the brilliant 2 tunnel clubs that you did, especially the last one, the vibes were immaculate. I mean, nice weather, cold beer, good football. What can we say that you guys haven't said already? I mean, I think Mikey Newell encapsulated it really well. These were team games. All they were cooking with gas and they were firing on all thrusters. Like, this is what we wanted to see, and it's fantastic to see it doubly so because of the youth movement that's now generating this wonderful free-flowing attacking football. Maybe all of those calls for patience in the face of insurmountable sadness were actually worth something, because I mean the results are undeniable. I mean you can see in the rundown I've taken a lot of flack for calling out the kids over the last 2 weeks.
We're getting to that. We're going to get to that.
Yeah. I know we are. But I'm remiss to say that we've turned a corner, because it is a very small sample size, but holy crap, guys. That felt like a collective exhale from the TFC Live family after some less than favorable results.
Absolutely. You look, I think, this time last week, we were kind of like, what is going on? So a lot can change in a week. And we talked about it in the last podcast that, they could hopefully use the cup win, getting to a cup final as a springboard, potentially to sort of make their run. And it looks like whatever Bob said between Saturday night and Wednesday night took hold, because the thing that, and we talked about in Tunnel Club, a lot of other shows have talked about it too, but the pressing, I think the pressing in from the front players and in the midfield has been really impressive. And especially, I'll call out Jaden Nelson specifically, just in terms of being able to, decision-making still needs to improve, but from a pure hustle and pressing perspective, I mean, he's a 19-year-old, so he's got 19-year-old legs and 19-year-old energy. Exactly. So that helps. But I think that's the biggest change in this team that I've seen over the last 2 games. Preface this by saying it's 2 games, so let's not go nuts. But we're going to get to that in a bit. Just really quickly, just in terms of the show today, he's here. Lorenzo is here. Press conference is happening at some point today. Normally
that's why Mike Singh isn't here. He's waiting around for this press conference. Yeah,
Mike Singh's at the BMO Club, eating some turkey sandwiches or something like that. Real nice before they officially unveil Lorenzo Insigne. So we'll talk a bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about Bob Bradley over these first 16 games. how we feeling, and where we think we're going. We'll take a quick look at Columbus coming up on Wednesday. And then we'll get to your 3 burning questions. Thank you to all the listeners. You bombarded me with questions, which is amazing. I love
We
that.
love it. We love it. We love having.
So we have 3 here. I'll read them out today. If I didn't read out yours today, don't worry. I'm starting to cache these. So if they are relevant in the future, we will use it again. So all good. But before we get into segment 1, Jeff, I just want to sort of round off on the proceedings of the last 2 home matches. I'll ask both of you, just what is the one thing that really sort of took you aback over these past 2 games in terms of, just whether it's a particular player or something within that was happening in those games that sort of just made you sort of make the eyebrows raise. Sean, I'll start with you.
Yeah, let's go, Sean.
I guess, you know what, it's just been, I've seen a more complete team in the past 2 games, right? Earlier in the year, we had a bit of a run. We were playing well, but we weren't really playing great football. You still saw areas where you definitely knew we need to be better defensively. We needed more control in the midfield. The young guys needed to know when to attack, when to focus on defense. In the past 2 games, again, it's just these 2 games, so I'm not going to make it seem as if we've turned that corner 100%. But you're seeing a more unified team hustle, helping each other. When it's not 1 or 2 guys applying that pressure, you see the whole, whether it be the midfield and the forwards applying it. It's that team press. It's that they're playing team football, and that's kind of what we haven't seen all season long. We're finally see and for me, that's what I'm noticing. Yep,
I mean, the idiom doesn't work, but possession as opposed to regression. That's what I'm seeing. I was really getting upset with what I thought was a regression, and again, that 4-game winning streak, it turned a lot of heads, and it spoiled a lot of ink that had been spilled. But basic principles of play were being abandoned, and I saw them coming back. Axis of Evil is just throwing out the hits right now. And I think he's right. First off, Insigne energy making waves, can't deny that. And secondly, better goaltending, which I agree with. In addition, Mike, you said this on the Tunnel Club. Chris Mavinga has a bunch of tools in his toolbox that we occasionally forget about. And those line-breaking passes are so important. And like you said, almost verbatim on the Tunnel Club, you really miss them when they're gone. And also, his value to this team now, he may be the most important player on our squad. And I say that with peace and love, knowing in full well, that there'll be some people that think that that's crazy, but he's the straw that stirs our drink now. I mean, he's omnipresent. His engine is now usurped like the Michael Bradleys and some of the other vets out there. He's vocal on the field, and he's tricky. I mean, he's a very complete player now. And because he's not the marquee guy, he gets away with murder, right? He can do things that a Jimenez or a Pozuelo can't do because he's not getting triple marked. So, that we keep talking about team, and it's really important to have somebody with those kind of skills on a team where everybody else is going to get triple marked, because he's almost our secret weapon. I think the other thing, and you also mentioned it on the Tunnel Club, was the partnership of Mavinga and Salcedo was finally looked like a decent MLS partnership. They were covering for each other. They were, they were sort of, they understood what was going on. And like you said, I've never seen Salcedo more communicative on the field. I've never seen him more vocal in terms of positioning and everything else. So the hope is that the team has crossed that hump where, we're not correcting basic mistakes now, and we're into like advanced or the intermediate level, where now it is something that can be communicated in 2 short bursts of grunts on the field, as opposed to, why is your back to goal? Like, I can't explain the basic mechanics of football to you in a 5-second interval.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's you're still going to have a bit of that, right? Like, but I think what we're seeing here is that, at some point, I think Carlos Salcedo is kind of getting to the point where like, okay, I need to take this a little bit more of the scruff of the neck. And I kind of felt like that, especially against Montreal, but that sort of took itself a bit more into the game on Saturday against Atlanta, and it helps when, I think you have that confidence in your partner beside you with Chris Mavinga. And that's not to say that he doesn't have confidence in Shane O'Neill, but I think there's I think the way that they play better complement each other
Absolutely.
from that perspective. And that's why, especially because you can have a left footer and a right footer, right? Like that's sort of the
ideal
magic.
Yeah. That's the dream
there.
matchup. Yeah.
Right. So I think you're still going to have some of those moments where you're just going to have some gaps at the back. But what we hope to see going forward now is a more cohesive team defending. Right. And I think we got a really good sense of that at the end of that Atlanta game where they were throwing the kitchen sink at them and they stayed resolute. Whereas a team 2 weeks ago would have probably crumbled and conceded a goal. Right. So that is an encouraging sign. As Bob Bradley said,
encouraging.
Not Barcelona yet. They're not the finished product yet, but it's a good encouraging step forward.
Justin brings up something in the chat that I think is interesting. He says, I think it's also important to point out that halfway through the season, MLS parity is at work. I agree, but I think that takes away a lot of the agency of what we've been frustrated for so long, which is coming up one of our bigger segments. But we could be starting to see the fruit of this new training, of the new Bob Bradley system, starting to become muscle memory to these players, which means it's easier for leaders on the field to communicate. Not to repeat myself, but I do think that that's what we're starting to see. And that's the most encouraging thing, other than number 24 arriving at a gate E at Pearson over.
Well, let's talk about number 24 because we can actually kind of say his name now. Maybe, I don't know. It depends on how player rights and imagery rights work. But he is here. Lorenzo Insigne has landed in Toronto. He landed on Friday to much fanfare. I had people who don't know a thing about football asking me about Lorenzo Insigne. So clearly it's making some impact outside of our TFC soccer bubble.
Sure.
But I mean, just for you guys, I mean, I know my excitement level and where it's at, and I can get into that in a second, but I want to know from you guys and from those who are watching wherever you are, type in the comments.
Yeah.
How excited are you to have him? Like, we've been talking about him for half a year, right? This happened in January. So we knew he was going to be coming for this length of time, but now it's done. Now he's here. How excited are you to finally sort of have him here and potentially train? Well, potentially I say that, and I'll get to that caveat in a second, but just how excited are you to have him here? Sean, I'll go with you first.
I mean, I guess I don't want to get my hopes up too much.
Yeah, he doesn't sound very excited, Mike.
Because I know what he brings to the table, but I guess part of the problem was I was worried about the pieces we had to play alongside him.
Damn right.
How motivated will he be, if he's watched games earlier, or, if he just finds like he doesn't get the same energy that he's used to seeing, whether it be with Napoli, whether it be with his Italian national team. It's a different environment, totally different environment for him. So I guess I'm tempering my expectations where we know what skills he brings to the table, but there could be a bit of an adjustment period for him.
Absolutely.
Totally new league, new style of play. Where even though we knew what his talent, there's going to be more pressure on him to be not just the man for TFC, almost like there's going to be pressure to be like, all right, who has the best DP signing now? Whether is it us? Is it LAFC with Bale? Right? Like, having these cachet names puts a lot of pressure on the player.
Hey, you know what? Yeah. There's a difference between our DP signing and their DP signing.
Oh,
our DP signing being here to play golf. Okay,
listen.
I'm not going to get into all that. Right?
No, I'm gonna because my there is a giant Gareth Bale on Tam size hole in my excitement for Lorenzo Insigne arriving. Right? I mean, what the hell is LAFC doing? They just broke the world. I agree. It's a different league. The fan experience is different. TFC are a passionate fan base, but we ain't got nothing on anybody in Serie A. Those guys live and breathe football. You know what I mean? And so do we, but I don't think to that extent. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, all of that becomes doubly important because here comes Gareth Bale on a Victor Vasquez deal, right? On a Zlatan year one deal. There is absolutely no way anybody that covers this league is not going to make those comparisons when they arrive and judge them out. Here's the $15 million man, and here's the $500,000 and a free pass for 18 rounds at the local Tar Pits golf course, man. So the pressure's on, the heat is on, and I'm very, very glad that the team has rounded into fingers crossed, toes crossed, has rounded into some kind of form so that we can alleviate some of the burden here because the pressure is on this guy, right?
Yeah,
the league.
It's different though. I would say it's different though. I think okay, everybody's going to make the comparison in regards to money, right? Like clearly in terms of the contracts. Gareth Bale is here to get fit for the World Cup. There is one purpose that he's here. He's here to play, to get fit, to go to play for Wales in the World Cup. And that
so is he MLS season. So he's the same as the Julio Cesar deal.
Sure, yeah.
I disagree. This is Gareth Bale, man. I mean, the guy,
look, he'll be around next year.
Yeah, if he's coming back, if he comes back next year, he's not coming back on a TAM deal, right? There's no.
It's in all the articles,
money, right?
It's a Zlatan deal, absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
So from that perspective, I don't think that, sure, for this season, fine. Going forward, I don't think that washes. I think I'm excited for Lorenzo Insigne to be here. I frankly, I don't really care what LAFC do, right? LAFC are at a different point in their process than we are. They're right now closer to being a cup-winning team than we are. So they need to go make those moves to try to push them over the top. We're at a point right now where we're still building to get to that point. We just happen to be able to sign a player on a free that was available when you probably would have no other opportunity to sign this player. Like if he went off
100%
for Spurs for 2 years, we never get him again, right? So you have to get him when you get him. But for me, I'm excited because I think what he does is he is going to elevate everyone around him. And it's the same thing that Sebastian Giovinco did with everybody else in that first year in 2015. Like, look, that 2015 team, they were okay, but defensively we were terrible. And basically we scored. We kind of baseball scored our way out of games sometimes, right?
100%, absolutely.
So from that perspective, I think he elevates us in that way. I know there's concerns about how can you play everybody up front and will they track back and all that kind of stuff. That stuff will get sorted out. I believe in Lorenzo Insigne as a professional. I've seen him play for Napoli. The guy will play and he will play hard, right? So that I don't have a concern about. My concern,
plus we're misremembering how much Josie and Seba played defense, right?
Right. My concern right now is that he is coming in with a bit of I don't know how extensive the calf issue was because that's why he didn't play.
Truth.
Vinalisma. Super glorified friendly against Argentina last month. But, if he can come in and he's going to be somewhat fit, then, how can you not be excited that he's here?
No, I don't think I want to be clear. I'm not excited, but there's a giant Gareth Bale on TAM to LAFC hole in my excitement because the league has changed. That kind of deal pushes the needle as much as Lorenzo's did, right? In some ways, even more. This again, Gareth Bale is such an outlier because of his relationships with his former employers and his outspokenness to make it to put a cute little bow on it. But so is Zlatan, right? Like, is the era Lorenzo may close the book on the era of overspending on European talent if he's not a giant success, right? Because there are other options for MLS clubs now. So there's a lot of pressure on this guy. And we're not bringing in somebody on a TAM deal while we're already atop the Supporter Shield standings and it's just about maintaining a status quo. This guy is, here to save the day, basically. So it's a very different set of circumstances, and it doesn't allow. There's not a lot of a margin for error here, and it's getting smaller and smaller. So there is a worry. There's a worry.
Fair enough. So
Again, Nico says it right here. The pressure of Insigne from being in MLS is nothing compared to being the captain of Napoli. He's used to a ton of pressure. I don't disagree. An elite athlete in any sport has to be used to a ton of pressure, or they're not going to be elite athletes. How's it going, Sean? But yeah, it's all conjecture, right? Like we need a couple weeks with the big man on the left wing, facing off against the Columbuses and the Cincinnatis of the world to see where we're at, right? Right now, we're just guessing.
I have a question. Can he practice
Sure.
for the club right now?
So in theory, he could. I don't think
question.
TFC are gonna. Yeah, I don't think TFC. Well, he can until at least July the 1st, because that's when officially the European transfer window over. In theory, I think he can train at that point, but he couldn't actually play until after the 7th.
Which is fine, but you'd think like you'd want to incorporate him within the club environment as soon as possible, right? Just for day to day, just to get into that groove, and so that come July 9th, assuming he's healthy, everything's good to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's got to figure out what treadmill is his. He's got to figure out what his weights are and how much he can bench.
This is MLSE rolling out the red carpet for a DP signing. They got that stuff all figured out. Like those players there's labels everywhere that just say Insigne. Like trust me, they got that sorted. Like that stuff is fine. Really, what we're just he's going to have to sort of get is just get on the pitch with these guys and sort of just figure out where he fits in or how they fit around him. Is probably the more apt way to say it.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of expectations, we kind of got into this discussion, but I'd love to know just what do you think? Do you think fans have a realistic expectation of what he's going to be able to bring?
Of course not. No way.
Okay, I don't. Okay,
you know what? Go ahead. If you're not a hardcore Napoli or Italian national team fan, probably not really. Like I've only seen highlights. Right? I haven't necessarily seen a 90-minute game of him to see what exactly he brings to the table.
That's fair. Right? That's fair.
I think that's what a lot of fans probably have seen. Like, again, if you're not a hardcore.
There's also the disconnect between, attacking players and defensively minded players and assist playmakers versus goal scorers in soccer, right? And whenever a big signing happens, people automatically assume that it's like they apply the filter of other sports. Well, it's a goal scorer, et cetera, et cetera. But in soccer, there's a lot more specialized positions. You could be a number 10 that doesn't light the world on fire in terms of your goal statistics, but contributes to team goals all the time. So, Seba kind of was interesting because, as a second forward, prior to TFC, he wasn't a huge goal scorer, but then he comes to TFC and is a cheat code. And so I think the expectation for Lorenzo is going to be the same, it may not be the skill set that he's put in with respect to team play. He may be more of a setup man in Bob's eyes than a finisher, right? He may be, and that might disappoint people.
Yeah, and I've watched Lorenzo Insigne for a long time, watching Serie A, watching the Italian national team. I know what he can do on the pitch, and I know sometimes what he also kind of struggles with at times. And I can see a little bit of that in MLS in terms of no one's going to question his skill. That he is maybe one of the most skillful players that will ever step foot on an MLS pitch.
Sure.
But those one thing that MLS does have is big, physical, fast defenders, and they can keep up with him from that perspective.
Sure.
I do think a lot of people are obviously going to naturally make the Seba comparison in terms of stature, in terms of what he can do,
nationality, where he likes to drink his espresso. Yeah, exactly.
Right? And in theory, he could play as a kind of second striker or a striker just below either Jimenez or Ayo. But he is really a winger, right? He is really a winger that plays on the left and cuts in on his right. That's kind of what he's good at. He can play off his left foot and cross in. So that is, that's something that he can do. He can beat guys one-on-one really easily. I guess my concern will be that, well, because of who he is and because of the reputation that he's been built, people are going to think, well, July 9th, okay, automatic goal machine. Every game, if he's not scoring a brace, what the hell is wrong with him? And that's my concern. I think there needs to be, as you said, Sean, an opportunity for him to bet into the team, because he's going to have to learn how to play off Jesus Jimenez, and he's going to have to learn how to play off of Pozuelo. Those connections may happen quicker than others, but he's still going to have to take time to learn that. It may take a couple of games for him to really kick on.
100%. 100%.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't speak a lick of English right now.
Nope.
So we've got that as an issue. You're going to have to translate, right? But I mean, there's going to be times where you can't, like on the pitch. I mean, football is football, right? And it's a universal language, thankfully. But there will be a learning curve and a bit of because of the language barrier. And again, when Bradley's on the opposite end of the pitch, as he's being they're going to rely on just the knowledge of the game at that point versus, the verbal communication.
Yep. And Frank says something that, we've sort of danced around, but I think it's important to bring up. He'll be heavily man-marked, just like they did with Seba, right? In a way that he's probably not experienced. Maybe on the Italian national team, playing against minnows or forget about the opponent. Because of his skill set on the Italian national team and Marky, he may be used to that kind of defensive pressure. But this is day in, day out with his club side. It may threaten, the silkiness of his game at first. There may be a rough adaptation where he has to, depend on other tools in his belt to get through the physicality of an MLS caliber defense. Where
I mean, look, when he was at Napoli, sure, maybe at the sort of earlier parts of his career, when there's a Cavani there, when there's a Higuain there, etc. And Marek Hamšík, right, when they can maybe take some of that off him. But the last couple of years, he's been the guy, right? So he's had to face that in Serie A, and he's had to face that in European competition as well. So he's not.
Serie A is a pretty violent league too.
Well, so I mean, look, the big difference is he just has a lot more time on the ball, right? Like, I think
that's such an advantage. Like,
it is such an advantage for a player like him who wants to take guys on. I think the advantage to TFC is that he can take people away from other players, like a Jonathan Osorio, like a Alejandro Pozuelo, pull people away from a Jimenez, because you, as a center back, if he comes into your zone, you're going to have to mark him, right? You can't.
Absolutely. Or you're doomed.
Exactly. So what you hope is that they start to build that intelligence in that sort of awareness
100%.
of each other, so that sometimes he's going to make a run to take a defender out of the way so that Jesus Jimenez can make a run in and score a goal, right? So
just the soft happen. Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's what you hope will be built over time. But the preface is, you need a bit of time, right? If it happens right away, great. It will be, that's a rarity, even Seba took 3 or 4 games to get his first goal, and maybe took a month before he really started going, and then
it was
summer
just
came in and he went nuts, right?
Wow, yeah.
Right. So it even took Seba at least a month to kind of get his footing in the league. And that's kind of what I expect also for Lorenzo as well.
I think that's a fair assessment. You give him. I mean, he's going to suit up for the first time mid-July. Is that
the 9th is the hope? The 9th
is the hope. So by August 9th, if he's not lighting the league on fire, let's ship him back. Get a refund.
We'll have a segment 1. What the hell is wrong with Lorenzo Insigne?
Exactly.
Let's sort of take away from the football perspective, just because we haven't seen him play with TFC. So the footballing stuff we're just sort of speculating on. But let's talk about this in terms of his signing and his arrival at the TFC as a whole, right? In terms of fandom, in terms of club profile, things like that. I think for us who have been in the TFC bubble, we all kind of know that the club from a buzz perspective has taken a hit during the pandemic, right?
For sure.
Like even going into 2019 on that run all the way to the cup final, like the buzz was there amongst those who know, but those who didn't know were like, what, they're in a cup final?
Because 2018, of course. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. Everybody jumped off the bus after that, So what do we think this is going to do for the club as a whole in terms of sort of bringing that notoriety back, both in Toronto and outlying regions as well, in terms of bringing them into BMO Field and sort of just building back sort of the vibe around the club outside of basically the people who are all listening to this and watching this podcast right now?
Sean?
I think it's going to, you're going to get a natural bump in, for example, attendance, right? That's just a given. For me, it'll be interesting to see if, some of the other sports media kind of jumps on board and starts to really push, the TFC narrative, right? Because when TFC was hot, you could not, they were everywhere, right?
Yep.
Every sports broadcast was talking about, every segment on the radio, on the sports radio, they were talking. Toronto TFC was hot. They really, you had, at that time, the Raptors were hot. We were hot. So you actually had probably two of the most up-and-coming sports basically up there in the, when it came to not just on the local stage, everybody was talking about our clubs, right? So in many ways, there will be a big hype, once they can start talking about him and once they can really push, his, whether it be highlight reels, whatever it is they can do to really kind of get that casual or even, those former, fans who kind of jumped off to try to win them back. And I think you will see an increase. But I think we need to, again, the hardcores, the ones who've stuck by it, we all know, all right, he's going to be a buzz. There's going to be a change, but at the same time, it's not going to automatically win us the cup. So I think you're going to have a bit of, it's going to be a balance when it comes to the hype and the expectations, but it can only be positive.
I agree with you.
Overall, can only be a good thing.
Can only be a good thing, and there's a few comments I want to get through, but let me get on my soapbox first, because this is something that drives me crazy about marketing. This idea that you can do, winning is going to bring butts in seats. Full stop, right? You can advertise your new players. You can talk about the great new sandwich you have at the concourse. But the thing that moves the needle is winning. Casual fans want to see a winning team. And that is not a knock against casual fans. It's just you can't debate that away. We signed Lorenzo Insigne, so we're going to get this and that and this. No, you have to win. It's a simple equation. So we can talk about this endlessly, and there will be a bump. I think July 9th, like Ravi says, is going to be packed. And I do think,
I'm pretty sure it's a sell.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely.
We're playing San Jose.
That's what's even hilarious. How hard it was. I had to get standing room only tickets for that game.
Yeah. I think it'll be rammed because Toronto loves waiting in lines for pop-up stuff, right? In-N-Out Burgers here, I must have it. But that's unsustainable. What is sustainable is winning, a winning culture, a winning team. That's what gets butts in seats. Full stop. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, will there be a positive momentum? Absolutely. Will it dissipate if it doesn't turn into wins and a climb up the table? 1,000,000%. And there's really no counter to that. So hopefully we start winning, because it again, there is no substitute.
No, absolutely. And if I had a bell here, I'd be ringing it like crazy. 100%. Right. It's building a winning culture right now, and part of this, from a signing perspective, Bill Manning has made this comment before. It's about, you're trying to bring winners into the locker room. Insigne, you're trying to bring in a Crescito, you're trying to bring in other players in this window that are senior players that are experienced and have done things in their careers, to then impart them into the younger players. There's sort of a question that was asked that I don't think I put in here for this week, but I will kind of just highlight it. And I'm sorry, I forgot the person that tweeted it at me.
It was me.
No, fair enough. But just in terms of the idea of, will this take away from the young players, right? Bringing in all these senior players now in the window, will young players suffer? And I think from a playing perspective, from a minutes perspective,
absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Of
right?
course.
But from a growing them as a footballer perspective, I can't think this unless you're bringing in crappy people again. Which, if you do that again, then you really have to have a serious question about decision making and
Sure.
scouting at TFC. But from all indications, the guys they're bringing in are top class professionals. And bringing those people in around those young guys is only going to help them from just learning how to be a better professional, right?
100%.
We're not even, before we talk about skills and getting better from that perspective, being a better professional in a lot of ways can take you a long way in your career. A perfect example of that is somebody that I know TFC are missing desperately in the midfield. It's Marky Delgado, right? Or Mark Delgado. I will never get used to saying Mark Delgado.
Marco.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But the fact that when he came to TFC, he was an 18-year-old that we got from like the Chivas Death Day draft. But he was he ended up eventually being surrounded by great vets who brought him up to a point where now he's a integral part of a treble winning midfield that you can't drop. And that when you lose him eventually, you just don't look like the same team. And that's what I hope, for some of these players, and one of those players we'll get to in the three burning questions perspective, is I can see a similar path for this particular player.
My notes on Mark, and listen, nobody appreciates the middle flipper more than I do. I'm responsible for our award, the Marky Delgado Award for TFC's most underrated player season by season. But I think Marky was a casualty in the same way that Paz might be. Bob is a systems guy. And there's not enough space in his midfield for a Marky Delgado kind of player. And that, coupled with whatever other interpersonal stuff was going on, or his desire to get that bag in Los Angeles, or he missed Greg Vanny, desperately, et cetera, et cetera. We have to be careful that we're not lamenting a team that no longer exists before. Like, is there a space for Marky on TFC 2022? I'm not so sure. Do I miss Marky and TFC 2015 to 2019, 2020? Absolutely, but I'm not sure that he's the answer for our team moving forward. But in terms of the player profile, somebody that puts his head down, does the work, is unflashy, unspectacular, but is a really important, necessary cog in the machine that you aren't paying a ton of allocation money for. Absolutely, we miss that sort of thing.
That's what you hope to build by bringing those senior players like Lorenzo Insigne into this team and teaching them how to be those type of players. You absolutely did a really great transition note. So points to you, Mr. Nesker. Moving on into sort of our next segment, just talking about Bradley at the wheel. We're 16 games into the Bob Bradley era. Just how are we feeling about how he's done so far? It's not quite halfway. We're almost halfway through the season, but how are we feeling about the job that he's doing as manager so far? I'll leave it very broad and open-ended that way, and go from there. Sean, what do you think?
I mean, I definitely was hyping him up earlier in the season, thinking, giving him on our Tunnel Club, I'm pretty much sure I gave him a high grade.
You did,
which I've since tempered that, and it's not that he's done a poor job. It's what he has to work with, right? Like, you've got, whether it be injuries, players playing out of positions. I mean, I'm not going to rehash all the things that we've touched on throughout the season, but
sure,
it's been like, when you see, once I guess the players have finally seemed to have bought into what he's trying to get them to, the style of play, how he, with the high press, more of a possession-oriented club, you see that he's got the right idea, and you can at least give him that benefit. Like, it's for certain aspects, he maybe got it wrong when it came to the goalies, right? That's true. But you're at least believing that, he's willing to tinker on things. He's not stuck in his ways and only like, all right, no matter what, Bono's his guy. No, he realizes that sometimes you do need to make changes. Sometimes some guys need to get benched. Some guys need that little kick in the butt. He's getting it right. I just think, I definitely gave him a higher grade, which giving great coaches or even players any kind of grade throughout the season is probably the worst thing you can ever do. Because
Ravi agrees with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
We love them pass fails in school. We love those pass
Mhm.
fails in school.
So,
Participation medals.
Yeah, I like the way the club's going. I like the direction, so I believe in it. I'm going to continue to see this out.
Yeah, I think there, as much as we talked about how brutal the offseason was, there was still a lot of fat to be trimmed. Alex Bono, forget about the person, forget about the skills. A 500,000 plus contract for a goalkeeper that's not your locked in starter is going to give the suits in that organization hives, right? So you're going to get a lot of memos. Why aren't you playing this guy? He's got to put him in the shop window, got to do something with this sort of thing. So I think he's navigated that ennui pretty well. His desire to play the kids with the looming Lorenzo influx, the sort of bad contracts or kind of leftover bits of badness. And I don't want to tag this stuff as bad, but I think he's done a decent job navigating that. And if you look, again, small sample size, but this is sort of where we expected to be at around this point. You know what I mean? I was sweating the regression because I was seeing players, especially the kids, doing things out there that were like anti-soccer. It was totally illogical. It was like left to their own devices, they just went crazy. I remember way back in the day, before I think it was even before TFC was a going concern. But the thing that I used to scream about with MLS games is like you would watch it and there would be these great buildups and then they'd get into the box and they'd all just panic. Like, I don't know how to shoot. Like, what do I do now? So it would be like this back and forth, track meet, but then they'd get into good spots in the box and just fall apart. And I was seeing that all over the field. Jaden under pressure wouldn't make an outlet pass. He would try to dribble his way out of 3 defenders. And who does that? You know what I mean? Like you don't even do that on the kiddie pitch. So it felt to me like massive regression. And now I'm not seeing that anymore. I'm seeing an adherence to systems. I'm seeing more of a tendency to incorporate with other players. So, there's a positivity there. Absolutely. I would give him the same letter grade I gave him on the Tunnel Club. I think it's worth an A. I mean, there was a lot of rot in this club, and I don't think we're privy to even 50% of those details. A lot to chew through, in an institutional way. So, let's go, man.
Yeah. Look, it's a pass right now. I think he did stumble a bit. Let's be real. I think he did stumble a bit after sort of the start of the season. I think those first couple of games you give him up, there's no letter grade, right? Obviously he's working with such a new team, but as the things progress, I think he did stumble a bit. I think he was trying to find that right connection. And look, injuries also played a big part of that, right? We have to
and I have a point. I have a point on this because you can't. A lot of these injuries may be, and I remember an article. I think it was one of Mike Singh's articles where the players said so much, and they said it is this new training, like it is a totally different system. So we're getting a lot of soft tissue injuries. I think even Bob raised his hand and took some flack for that and said, look, that's going to happen. I mean, we're targeting different muscle groups. These guys are doing things that they don't normally do. So they may be putting more pressure on their pivot foot or whatever the case may be. That does fall under his purview, unfortunately. So that, again, these are part of the growing pains, right?
Absolutely. But I think what I've been impressed with him more than anything is the progression of the young players. You say regression, Jeff. I actually don't see that in those.
And that's fair.
I have seen nothing pretty much aside from maybe Noble Okello, and that's again.
Oh wow, no, I've seen a wave.
It's injury. To me, it's injury prone. Everyone else, generally speaking, I have seen an upward trajectory. Now, some upward trajectories are like this, and some are like this. Right. So there are varying levels of that. But I think, and I'm saying like this because if you're listening on a podcast, you can't see my hands. But basically, there's like
it's a 25-degree angle and almost a 90-degree angle for geometry nerds out there.
Exactly. Yeah. But basically, the point being is that all of these young players have progressed. Yes, they have made mistakes in matches, but I think we've beaten that point to death. in terms of, we're going to have to live with that. But I think what we're seeing from these young players is that they are progressing. They are getting better. The way that they're playing and seeing the game is getting quicker. 100%. And that is the biggest hurdle. It's been said by a lot of players that you talk to. That is the biggest hurdle, is just getting used to the speed of the senior game and the speed of thought, not just the physical speed, but the speed of thought.
Your decision-making has to be
between your brain and your feet. And that is slowly improving amongst those players. And to me, that is, if you get anything out of this season, look, if they get to the playoffs, great. If they make a cup run, amazing. If they don't happen to do either of those things, I will still consider his first season a success if we get Jaden Nelson and Priso, and we get Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, and we get Kosi Thompson, and Luca Petrasso. Two of those players weren't even in the conversation of getting into the first team prior to preseason. If they're now become key parts of an 18, they may not start every game next season, but they become key parts of an 18. To me, success.
I think that's very measured and well-adjusted take, Mike, which is something we don't do very often. So thank you.
But if they don't make the playoffs, then I still will be upset. Don't get me wrong. I want this team to win everything under the sun. That is the Toronto FC that has
understood.
But I do also see another part of this picture where we are trying to build essentially a new core from within, which this club has never done before. TFC
I think it's going to, and it will be really interesting to see, when these young kids take a back seat, do they keep up with this, or did they not get enough time on the pitch to build those habits, right? Like if Jaden Nelson has to take a back seat because Lorenzo's got his spot, and the only place he can be in is on the left wing, right? In Bob Bradley's ideal world, depending on the new arrivals. 2 months in, are we going to see this Jaden Nelson, or are we going to see the Jaden Nelson of 2 months ago? And that's bad, because we can't start all these guys. And if that's what they need to keep at this clip, to keep at this form, we got a massive problem on our hands, because there's just not enough room for everybody.
No,
right?
That's true. That's true. And that will be the next sort of phase of Bob sort of coaching these young players is, okay, you're not playing match in, match out anymore.
Yeah.
Are you still progressing? Are you still using training to get better every day? That's going to be the next step in terms of sort of providing him a complete letter grade at the end of the season, in my opinion. Here's a question for you guys in terms of Bob. Let's shift from the young players, because we spent a lot of time on the young players. Let's talk about the senior players on this team. The guys who should be the leaders and should be carrying the team. Has Bob Bradley gotten enough out of those guys?
Outside of them, some of them being injured half the time. Mavinga's been injured. He's played 2.5 games now.
Yeah.
Oso's played 3 or 4, maybe. Right? Like Jonathan Osoro's a key integral part of this team. And I don't think
100%.
there's any issues. I don't think Bob even will have any issues with what he brings to the table when healthy. Even Michael seems to just have, I don't know, he rarely gets injured. And when he is, he's not out for a long period of time, so he's a workhorse. A lot of fans, we've even given him some flack at some points of the season, but he's going to give it 110% every game.
Always.
Practice. He's always, so when it comes to the senior, outside of, those guys, a lot of the so-called senior guys are also new guys to the club, right? Outside of maybe Pause, because you're talking about a lot of the other guys, Jimenez, Salcedo, these are they're vets.
New guys. Yeah.
They are new guys, but they do also come in with some leadership credibility.
Yes,
they're coming in there's some change, right?
But I mean, this is at the same time, you can almost say this is Michael and Jonathan's team.
Gotcha.
Right? Based on how long both of them have been with the club, they've seen, these young kids have literally, from they were with the academy, they've known those two has been integral parts of the senior team. Chris Mavinga's been there, a good, I don't even know how long has it been?
2017.
2017.
Right?
Yeah.
So, outside of that, we got rid of all our veteran leadership.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, no doubt Jimenez, Salcedo, even O'Neill. Those guys are vocal veteran footballers, but they're
Yeah.
still new to the club. They're not just going to walk in there and command like, all right, this is how we're. They also understand you gotta get like everyone's got to get comfortable amongst each other. Right. And like I said, Saturday was the first time I've noticed in Salcedo how vocal the player he can be. Right. You hadn't really noticed that amongst the defenders all season long. So finally
Nope.
there's something that's happening amongst them. And it can't be just on the pitch. It has to be something outside that they're finally, whether it be gelling, connecting, maybe, we don't know what's always goes on behind the scenes, but there's something right that they all seem to be connecting together.
Yeah, my answer is incumbent on the last game exclusively. I think we're starting to see it. Like Justin says, you can't give a pass when we're still trying to figure out Pozuelo's role on the pitch, in the locker room, in the team shape. So my answer has to be no. And we've also got a breaking update from Yvonne. There is a YouTube link. The press conference is at 4:30. So you have a half an hour to crack a beer after we finish. And then you can watch Lorenzo and his translator talk about how great
that was a nice way of Yvonne saying hurry this up. Okay, go ahead. Continue your point, Jeff.
That was my point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's difficult because like Sean said, it's been such a changeover. And the senior players maybe are just now rounding into some kind of understanding, but I can't give him a passing grade on that because there's just too much going on with the senior guys on the squad.
No, and that's I think that's fair. For me personally, look, when I talk about the senior players, yeah, sure, of course, Shane O'Neill, Carlos Salcedo, Jesus Jimenez, right?
Yep.
Even to a certain extent, like a Lucas McNaughton. Like Lucas McNaughton's not a kid, right? Like he's 26
not.
And he's won a league title before.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, you hope that those players can lead. And I'm not talking necessarily they need to lead by a raw example, right? Like a lot of those guys lead by being professionals on the pitch and showing up every day. That was a problem with the Soteldo, right? Like, and some of the guys that they jettisoned last year. So my thing is that are you getting enough out of the guys you expect to get enough out of? The Michael Bradleys, the Jonathan Osorios, the Pozuelos, the people that are going to be key in your team. Chris Mavinga, you can throw Mavinga in there as well, even your goalkeepers, right?
I would,
and
absolutely.
Right now it's borderline no. I think you're seeing a bit more of a stand, especially from Jonathan Osorio carries a lot of that. I think Michael Bradley has actually in the last month played a hell of a lot better than he played at the beginning of the season. I know a lot of people, and I'm one of those that do not believe he needs to be a starter every single match.
Especially now. Yeah.
Especially now. And we will get to that in the burning question because that was something a lot of people asked questions about. But, for me, there are still things that he does that no one else on the team can do, right? Like he pinged a couple of balls on Saturday that no one else can hit.
Otherworldly.
No one else can hit, right? Like there was one that almost sent Io clear on goal. And he pinged that from maybe 10 yards outside of the opposing 18. So those kind of things you can't replace. And I think he's actually played a lot better than a lot of people wish to say that he has.
Agreed.
And that you have to give a check mark to Bob Bradley about, because I think he is also understood that he really does need to play as a deep line player. He cannot really be pushing as high as he was at the beginning of last year and as he has in the past. I think what's hurt is that at times he's had to be isolated because the person that's ideal to play beside him right now is Jonathan Osorio, and he's just not fit. So again, when I say kind of fail, it's only just simply because some injuries have presented the best version of those seniors to be able to play.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll go to the last point here for this segment. It's just, are we going to trust the process? And
sort of have to.
I know people hate that term now. It's kind of overused to a certain extent, but I think it does really apply to this year's version of Toronto FC. Sean, are you trusting the process?
You have to. You have to. like, why would we change again? Even in the off season, why would we look to say, all right, you know what, maybe this didn't work. Let's bring in a new coach or go in a new direct. Like, how are we ever going to really get to the end point if we don't allow the process to play?
100%. 100%. I mean, was Klopp successful at Liverpool right off the hop?
No.
Was Pep at Man City? Was Fergie at Man United? I mean, decades ago, absolutely not. You buy the ticket, you take the ride. We have hitched our wagon to Bob Bradley's wagon to the we are card carrying members of the Church of Bob Bradley, and we got to see this through for better or worse, warts and all.
All right. Well, we're on the Bob Bradley ride, all hands inside the cart, as we ride on through to the second half of the season. Okay, guys, let's take a quick look into to Wednesday night's match against Columbus. To me, a 6-pointer, right? Like this is a team
easy.
We're tied. We're tied on points with them. They're just below us technically in the standings. I think it's just simply because we've played a game more than they have. But this is a team that right now they're kind of up and down. They're kind of like us right now, which is what I would not have expected from this team this year. I thought they were kind of going to load up and into Bezbachenko team, right? They're going to
but I mean, last year they the bed as well. Yeah. So it's been an ongoing issue with Cebus, and they're definitely punching under their weight. They're definitely a disappointment in terms of the roster that they've built versus performances. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, this is a team that's also missing a lot of players that kind of had the same injury issues we've had. Zella Ryan isn't playing, and remember, he killed us in the first game this year.
Oh my God!
So I don't know if he may. I don't think he's going to be back Wednesday. But they are missing some other players as well. They're starting to slowly get some players back, but they drew 0-0 against RSL on the weekend. So right now they're playing sort of a combination of some vets like Darlington Nagby and Jonathan Mensah, but they're also playing a lot of kids like Aiden Morris.
Yeah, a lot of kids
as well. So they're kind of almost in the same boat we're in. And they just signed, a $10 million man, Cucho, I think it is Cucho or Cucho.
That's his name, Cucho Hernandez. Yeah,
Cucho Hernandez from Watford. So we'll see what he does, when he gets here, but he can't play on Wednesday.
Yep.
But guys, what are you sort of looking for on Wednesday night to try to take this to 2 straight league wins?
A win.
Another cider and a glass of ice, baby. That's all I care about. Cider and a glass of ice in my seat at the South End. No, I think it's going to be a fun. It's a home game, of course.
Yeah.
I have my tickets. I think it'll be a fun match. I want to see more of the same from the team. As you said in the rundown, press will be key again. This is another team that we can press into oblivion. So it's kind of a great opponent to have off the back of these 2 matches. And again, we're quite evenly stacked. It'll be kid against kid in a lot of key areas. So it could be a good opportunity for our youth squad to show all these new tricks and this new confidence and shore up that new confidence moving into the real business end of the season. So yeah, absolutely.
I definitely think it's a must win. I do think though we may see some player rotation, right? With having it on Saturday, having a game this Wednesday, and then another game on Saturday. Do you want to keep riding players who are just coming back from injury? Probably not.
Who's left, man? Like who do we have?
I know, but you may I can see maybe them not starting Mavinga, giving him a chance to rest for the weekend. You don't want to push, we can't afford him to go down again.
No.
Right?
No.
Whether it be Shane O'Neill or McNaughton getting a run out there, we see Chung is back healthy.
Yep.
We have to allow the guys who are just coming back not too much time, and I just don't want to see anyone get hurt. I don't want to see Ozo go down. I don't want to see
fair point.
Maybe finally give Jaquil a start, see if he is 100%, right? But that's what I would do is a little player rotation. But we know who's going to be up front. It's probably going to be Jimenez and Akinola,
which we haven't discussed the 2 up front, which is a very anti-Bob situation. But
but it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
For the most part, it's been at least in the last 2 games. Paz has been. He'll probably get that start unless he's in. So the areas where you have a few guys come back from injury, maybe rest them, give them a little, or at least maybe only give them a half. But I could see some player rotation coming in this week. That would be the only thing.
Yeah,
That's
I would
fair.
think there would be player rotation for Wednesday, for sure. I don't think you see Oso start. I think you give Ralph Priso another run out. You're like, great goal, came in, gave us 30 solid minutes on the weekend. All right, here's your reward. Go start against Columbus, right? Yeah, I can see Shane O'Neill slotting back into center back potentially. It would be great to maybe see Caden Chung get a start. There's a question about that right back position and 3 burning questions, so I don't want to go into that too much before we get there. But I could definitely see some rotation. Maybe one of the forwards sits and they only play one up top this time around.
Maybe.
So we'll see. We'll see who gets the start, but definitely some player rotation for TFC, especially because I think Bob would see Seattle as a yardstick game. We play Seattle on Saturday at home. Let's use that as a yardstick game to see where we are in terms of the top teams in the league. Last time we really had to take on a top team in the league, it was New York, and we shipped 5 goals, really quick. So let's see where we are at this point in terms of some of the top teams in MLS. So let's close it out this week, guys, with these 3 burning. Actually, before I do that, I am going to ask for a score prediction. I know people hate it. But I am going to ask you guys for a score prediction.
I'm gonna do the real SAS TFC fan special, which I do on our WTR prediction league. 2-1 TFC, as always. Okay,
another 2-1. All right, hey, I'll take it. Sean, what do we got?
I think we're gonna finally break our league shutout streak. So I'm gonna say 2-0.
2-0. Wow.
Okay. He goes 2-0. I'm going to take a good old fashioned. I could end up seeing this being a draw. So I am going to take a 1-1 draw. And that's simply this down to the fact that I just don't believe there's going to be a clean sheet on Wednesday because this team can't do clean sheets at the moment.
We did one last Wednesday. I'm very true.
Very true.
Wednesday is hump day / clean sheet day.
Clean sheet day. That's when TFC does the work.
Wait. How can you have a hump day and a clean sheet? I'm sorry.
That's when you have the washer and dryer in the unit. All right, let's go on to 3 burning questions of the week from TFC, #TFC Live. Thank you guys for submitting these. Keep on submitting them either to myself or preferably to the at Toronto Till I Die Twitter handle. We'll try to read them out each week. So I will get started with the first one. This one was asked by at JM Bevington. So thank you, sir, for the question. I kind of shortened it a little bit, but and a couple people also asked this question, so I'm amalgamating it a bit.
Yes.
With Jaquil Marshall-Rutty getting minutes again and being healthy, do you think he'll step back into that starting right back role, or will Kosi keep that role? Because he has been playing pretty well at that right back position. So love to get your thoughts on that. Jeff, I'll start with you.
I know how hot you are on Kosi. I know how high you rate him. Does putting JMR in the right back role achieve the goal of shop windowing him for his eventual big ticket move to Liverpool or not? I don't think so. Although, no. I'm going to take that back. I remember now that they see him as a fullback. And when he was in training, a lot of the scouts saw him as a converted attacking fullback. So that might be the deciding factor. I mean, they want to move this guy while the desire is still hot to move him. So getting him out there, trotting him out, shop windowing him may take priority. But you can't deny that Kosi playing out of position right now is playing lights out. And in a fair and perfect world, that's his position to lose. But it's not a fair and perfect world. And Kosi may have to deal with the fact that he may have to step back, let JMR show his wares, and then, get that move that he wants and open up the space for Kosi.
Well, I mean, I was actually surprised that they put him on when they did bring Jaquil on Saturday. They put him on the left side versus the right side. That makes me wonder: is are they just really believing in what Kosi's doing on the right side.
It's a very strong suggestion of yes.
Because if anything, the left side we've seen, whether it be Schaffelberg or even Petrasso, struggle more so than Kosi has struggled on the right side. Mind you, all of them are playing out of position. But maybe they see this as a potential of, let's see what Jaquil can do on the left as a left wing back versus only as a right wing back.
That's very, very fair.
And I mean, you could always put Kosi back to his natural position as that right midfielder on the wing.
How? Oh, we have our midfielders.
Yeah, remember he actually plays there. Actually, look, like Wednesday night, I would if this works, play Kosi at right and give JMR a chance to push up and play at the wing. Right, I think it doesn't hurt to try that.
I think it might. I actually think it might when you're dealing with these sponge brains and you're like, okay, play here, learn that position. All right, here's a treat. We're going to put you back to where you belong. And then you're like, oh, this feels great. And then they put you back to the new other position and you're making those same mistakes again. I mean, again, not a coach, not a professional athlete, but to me, it seems too heavy a risk to keep moving these pieces when they haven't established anything again, just
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I see, the flexibility and the tactical flexibility that you have when you have players that now are sort of understanding different positions and where to play.
That is a great counterpoint. Right. That is a wonderful counterpoint.
It gives you some of that flexibility, right? If you want to change things around, maybe you want to give Paz a seat. Cozy Thompson can play as a 10, not saying that he can always play as a 10. It's not necessarily his best position, but he has played that in the academy, right? So
absolutely,
that is a possibility. And either whether you put JMR at right wing back or you slot in Caden Chung and play a more traditional back four and push JMR up to the right wing, you have those opportunities to do that. And I think that gives you some tactical flexibility going forward when you do have to make these changes, because there will be a lot of Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday as the season is a bit condensed, trying to end it earlier than normal.
Justin said exactly what I was thinking, but not even Paz gets to play as a 10. Like it's like, hey, Cozy, go do your favorite thing. Yeah. If I'm Paz, I'm throwing daggers through the
just go.
What do I got to do here, guys? Like seriously.
Yeah, just go wander. Yeah. All right. Burning question number 2. This comes in from 2 people. So I've again amalgamated questions here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nug 485, I know who this is, and Suresh CFC, who's clearly a Chelsea supporter. When is Wreck-It Ralph Priso going to get a serious shot as our new starting number 6?
Not this year.
This is amalgamation of a couple of questions just in regards to, should it be time for Michael Bradley to sit down and give Ralph Priso a start? I'll let you guys go first.
It's not happening this season.
It's we all love Priso, but like I said, he's coming back from a major injury, and one of the main reasons I've said it before, like we all probably agree, Michael Bradley does not need to start every game, but until we have a legitimate option to choose over him, who like Ralph is we've seen bits and pieces of him from last season. We've seen moments of brilliance out of him, but we haven't seen a consistent 90 minutes out of him. And before we put him as that number 6, I want to see, 2 or 3 games of consistency.
Absolutely. Like
at the end of the day, all the young kids have to earn it. We don't just, no one is just automatically going to get it. And there's been nobody,
especially that number 6 position. Like,
100%. So truthfully, there's been no one for me that is ready to start over Michael Bradley. Even though I want someone to, I just don't think we have anybody in the pipeline right now. And that's not knock Ralph, not knocking Nobel, but neither of them are ready to be a week in, week out starter.
100%.
Okay, there you go. I will agree. Right now, sorry, our best 6 is still Michael Bradley.
Yep.
That's just the reality of things. Is Ralph Priso working his way to becoming that type of player, or potentially becoming like an 8, like a Marky Delgado kind of 8? Yes, yes, he's 100% getting there. He ain't there yet. He scored a fantastic goal on Saturday.
It was lovely. It was lovely. Yeah,
banger, but like that one goal does not make you starter. So from that perspective, maybe that's a 2023 question. But I understand where it comes from, because I think we've all had that conversation over the past year or so.
And we all want to see that happen. It's not like,
and we do want to see, absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to see that.
We don't want people to think
happen.
we're not fans of Ralph Rizzo. We all want to see, like, we know he's got talent. But
Michael Bradley is what, 36 years old, 35 years old. Yeah. You want to know that there's somebody in the wings that's going to at least capably deputize for the beating heart of the club that we love. I think that's a fair question, and I think people are right when they talk about, what happens, because we seem to be all cruising towards this finite situation where Michael Bradley's legs fall off and there's nobody there to be there for him. So I think it's fair to consistently stress, as fans of the club, what is our plan for this eventuality. But right now, it's pretty clear that nobody is taking that spot for Michael Bradley, and it's based on skill at this point. It's not based on favoritism. They're not as good as he is. It's simple as that, right?
Yeah, and I'll leave on this point before we go to the final question. Liam Fraser was supposed to be that guy, and Michael Bradley beat him out. Yep. He outweighed him to the point where he just had to leave, right? So do not expect Michael Bradley to just be handing that over.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
It is not happening, right? So, when Michael Bradley will stop playing the 6 when Michael Bradley decides to stop playing the 6.
Exactly.
One thing I can actually say is, compared to the past, we can actually see a more likely changing of the guard.
True.
I agree.
As from a fan perspective, we all wanted to see Liam Fraser get that chance or basically take it from him, but it didn't happen. Right.
It was, the die was stacked. Nobody's taking that position away. Look at who the coach / sporting director is, right? Like, it's just not happening. But
I'm not going with that nepotism.
No. Again, this is based on skill. But I will say this: I agree with you, Sean. In Prisa, you have a kind of hybrid 6'8". If Noble Okello can figure his feet out with that size, that's such a threat. As another 6'8" kind of hybrid, there's a lot of promise there. There's a lot of potential there. So, and they're both very different players than Michael Bradley. Which, if you're trying to do a changing of the guard, you probably are now looking at a different skill set, right? Like that kind of number 6 is a dying breed, I think, in world football as well.
Fair enough. Last point of that, I think Noble Okello in the future should be a ball playing center back. I'm going to leave
wow.
That's where I think he might actually best.
I want that monster in the midfield, man. I want like the oh man.
You got a monster like that back there who can pass the way he can pass. But anyway,
True.
Not a coach, not a player.
True.
So my word does not matter. All right, third and final burning question of the week. Does Jeffrey P. Nesker owe the kids an apology after writing them off as not good enough last week on the prod? That comes from @RussianBot 3004.
Now,
Jeffrey, the floor is yours.
I am pretty sure I've just spent an hour and 12 minutes apologizing to the kids. So I think that yes, I do. But hot takes, are my stock and trade, guys. That's what I'm here for. I'm the clown prince of chaos. Yeah, absolutely. I owe them an apology, but I'm going to keep lighting it. Hopefully they listen, and maybe I played some small part in the motivation to get their S together. So yeah, I'm gonna bring it.
Wear that badge.
Yeah, baby. I'm gonna wear that badge with pride. Absolutely. Do I deserve a sock in the kisser for some of my hot takes? Absolutely, sometimes. And this might be one of those examples. But yeah. No, this has been a great week for the club that we love, and it would be stupid of me to not say absolutely. Let's apologize and give out candies and lollipops.
All right, there you go. So for all the young players that are listening from Toronto FC, you have gotten your apology. Take it and run. All right, let's call it a show. We got a press conference to watch in about 15 minutes. Just setting the table for this week here at TFC and here at Toronto Till I Die. The Tunnel Club will be back on Thursday, recapping the day after show, recapping the Columbus game, and then we will be back again on Sunday, recapping the Seattle game. Yeah, we will be busy boys hosting those shows. Mr. Nesker, I see you on the show each time. Grab a mic and come in and chat with us.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a bit too deep in the libations to make any good points.
Fair enough.
And sometimes
you should have heard us from Halifax last week.
Yeah.
I did hear you from Halifax last time. That was a show I would jump in on. Yeah, absolutely.
No, fair enough.
I plan to. I've got a few errands that I have to take care of this week that may preclude it, but I may drop in just to throw out one of my hot takes. But I mean, you guys are killing it on that show, and you guys had Chris on with, Chris is becoming a regular guest because he brings up points that he wants to discuss with you guys, which is exactly what we wanted. We wanted to have a regular rotating cast of passionate TFC fans voicing their gripes, their grievances, their hot takes, their lukewarm takes, and that's exactly what's happening. So
and it's just mine and Sean's job is to pull him back from the ledge.
Exactly.
And that's
pull you back from the ledge.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want to hear from you, like week in, week out. Mike and I don't need to talk for much.
Nope.
It's really about letting you guys as the fans say what you got to say.
Absolutely.
So follow at TFC Tunnel Club to find out when the shows drop. We'll drop the Twitter Spaces link there. And then we'll be back next week, Monday, recapping this week here at Toronto FC and here at Toronto Till I Die. So follow at Toronto Till I Die for all the latest. And also, 3 burning questions. Now we're going to read him. We're going to
we love that. I love that segment.
Absolutely. Just mention at Toronto Till I Die. If you want to mention me directly, you can mention at Football Saves. We'll read out those questions. I am saving those for those that did not get onto the show because they might be relevant later and we might read them out. So
maybe we can use 1 or 2 on the Tunnel Club.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
if you also
100%.
want to ask a question on the Tunnel Club and are a little shy and don't want to get on the mic, then just mention us at TFC Tunnel Club, and then we'll get your comment or question on air as well. But
good plan, boys.
That was a great show. Really enjoyed it. So on behalf of Jeffrey, Pete, Nesker, and Sean Levy, my name is Mike Newell. Thanks for listening or watching again at Toronto Till I Die. We'll see you next week, guys. Cheers.
Have a good one.
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.